two, one, and we are live for a new episode of the Electrek podcast. I am Fred Lambert, your host, and I'm joined by Seth Wintraub. How are you doing today, Seth?
I'm good.
All right. This episode of the podcast is sponsored by Electrify America, the largest public fast charging network in the US. We're going to have a little bit more to say about them later on the show, but thanks, EA, for sponsoring the podcast. Also, if you do like the podcast, please make sure to give us a thumbs up or a comment in the comment section below. You can also subscribe to know whenever we're going live, which is normally on a pretty regular schedule on Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern time, but you never know. You can also get to see our new videos whenever they come out. So let us know that we appreciate it. Um, Also, if you have a question at the end of the show, we are going to comment on. We're going to answer your question, and if you have a specific subject that we didn't discuss during the podcast that you want us to discuss, you can put them in the comment section. Just put them in all cap so that we know this is something that's addressed to us. It's not you guys discussing in the comments, which you're also welcome to do anytime. All right, let's jump into the big story this week. Started last weekend. When Elon announced on Twitter that he was considering selling 10% of his stake in Tesla, which at the time was worth about 24 billion. That's 10% of his stake, not his whole stake. His whole stake is actually was at the time worth closer to $240 billion. So 10% of it is 24 billion, or roughly 17 million shares if you want to go by shares, which is easier to do since the price is fluctuating all the time. And the way he presented it was kind of surprising to some, strange to other. Kind of raised some eyebrows for me, at least.
Yep.
The way he tweeted it is he framed it as in that there's a lot of concerns right now. Well, let's look at the actual tweet, so I'm not paraphrasing, and then we can read between the lines as we often do. The tweet itself was, much is made lately of unrealized gains being a means of tax avoidance. So I propose selling 10% of my Tesla stock. Do you support this? And then he presented it as a yes or no poll on Twitter, and not overwhelmingly, but a decent majority with 57.9% over 3.5 million votes said yes to sell the stake. Okay, so let's compartmentalize this a little bit and address this ball issue, because this is significant. This is the richest man on the planet selling a huge chunk of stock worth an insane amount of money, and in the biggest electric automakers out there. So what he says about much is being made lately of unrealized gains being a means of tax avoidance. So this started with the Democrats floating this idea that maybe we should tax unrealized gains, which a lot of people were like, "What are you talking about? That makes no sense." It comes from this trend now that's been going on for a while, where the super rich will not pay taxes because they will live off, because most of their wealth is attached to stocks, and you don't have to pay taxes on those stocks unless you sell them or unless you gain stock options, which is considered revenue. So if you just you know increase your wealth by investing into your company, and the stock keeps going up, you gain a lot of wealth technically on paper, and a good way to live with that wealth without having to sell any stocks and pay taxes on them is to borrow against those stock, and then this is a loan that you're getting. You live off that loan, and as long as you maintain a high price, you can get very good loans on it and live well off of that. So there's been a bunch of different discussions around it that's, in my opinion, has been very misrepresented for the financially the people that are not very well versed in finance. Like this is super hard to understand, because you get Seth, you get those headlines like Elon Musk made $50 billion this month. When in fact his stake in Tesla increased in value in $50 billion. It's not $50 billion in revenue. So like you can literally make a headline if you want to be clickbaity, if you want to be really misleading. Really, you can say that Elon made $50 billion in 2020. He didn't pay a cent in tax. which could be, I don't know, he might have paid some, he probably got some revenue, another revenue stream, and did pay taxes. But on his stake on Tesla, increased by 50 billion in revenue, but he didn't pay any taxes on that, which is fair. So now, and of course, Elon being the richest man in the world right now, he's kind of at the center of that discussion a lot lately. And with his stake in Tesla increasing in value so much over the last year due to the price increase, that makes him a target for that. And in this tweet, it makes it sound like this is getting to him or something. Like he's like, all right, like he grew a conscience. Oh, I'm not paying any taxes on that. It's bad. Let's see if you guys agree to it. I'll just sell 10%, $24 billion, and pay the insane tax bill that's gonna come with that. Um, but I think that the story that's not being told correctly. I mean, it's starting to in the media. I saw some media starting to pick up on that, but we said it in our first post there because it was kind of obvious, and I've been saying it for a year. You remember, Seth, when this whole third row podcast thing went down last year, and it's all started when I exposed that they were like pushing misinformation to Elon. That it started from me saying that Elon's going to have to sell some stock to pay taxes at one point on
Right.
his stock option that he's going to exercise, and they called me like an idiot for even saying that. I think this is what is happening right now.
Right.
Like this quarter, Elon had to exercise $2.3 billion worth of stock option. So now stock option are different from just an increase in value or unrealized gains. This is new stock that's been awarded to you through a compensation plan, which in this case was Elon's old CEO compensation plan from 2012 that has expired by now, but he achieved a bunch of tranches of that plan, which awarded him a ton of option. And if you remember, there was another CEO compensation plan. I think it was a 2016 one that it was updated, and which is even wilder, like insane amount of stock option grants that come with an insane increase in Tesla's value, which has happened. So
Right.
he's already achieved a lot of he's been awarded a lot of those stock options. Now you don't have to exercise them right away, but there's an expiration date, and the one from the 2012 plan started to expire, and he has a bunch of others that are going to expire within the next year. So within the next year is going to be awarded tens, well, again, depending on how Tesla stock value is doing, tens of billions of dollars worth of Tesla stocks. And this is new revenue, this is new wealth coming to him that's not real, it's not from an accrued stock price value. He's going to have to pay taxes on that. Some tax expert put his tax burden based on those new stock options between 10 and 15 billion dollars over the next year. So technically, he could try to borrow more money in order to pay this tax burden without having to sell any Tesla stocks. But I think, as far as I know, this would be completely unprecedented in terms of value here, like in the tens of billions of dollars. So the more traditional thing to do is when you get awarded some of those stocks, or even before that, or some of your other existing stock in your stake in the company, you sell those in order to pay your tax burden, and also you have to pay those stock option normally comes at the price that whenever a discount over whenever they were awarded in the first place. Like for example, the one that were exercised this week by Musk was $6 a share, something like that.
Jeez.
Against at the time they were like $1,200 a share. So you have to pay those, but I mean it's peanuts compared to the value today. So you sell some of those shares in order to pay for that and to pay for your tax burden that's going to come at the end of the year. You want to be ready for that because that's a lot of money. Um, so it is strange, to say the very least, that he would come up with this idea here right when Tesla hits a new all-time high that a lot of people are saying is a little bit premature too in terms of value. And a lot of people, including like it was a year ago that Elon said that Tesla was overvalued at the equivalent of pre-stock split of like $480 a share. So it's, well, now post stock split, I should say. So 480 a share, it's now worth almost three times that. So did something change for him in the last year that three times that makes sense now? We know that he's bullish long term on Tesla. There's no doubt about that, and I am too. But in terms of the value increasing so much now, and especially him, you know what he's been saying, said we've been discussing. A lot of the increase came after the Hertz deal and everything that came with it. And Elon was questioning that. Is like, if all that value, the $300 billion in value that was added since the Hertz deal, like he didn't get that at all. So it is weird for him to like find this, for lack of a better word, reason or excuse to sell stock at this timing at the highest price, right when he knows that he has a giant tax bill coming in, no matter what. So, in my opinion, he found a way to justify selling Tesla stock at a very high price, exactly, while making it sound like he's willingly himself creating a big tax bill for him to pay a ton of taxes, while in fact that tax bill was coming anyway. That's
Yeah,
how I see it.
yeah, I agree. I think he was
Mm,
always planning to sell to pay the taxes on this stuff.
mm,
I mean, you're right. Like to borrow enough money to pay those taxes would require like multiple, like huge banks,
mhm,
you know, billions of dollars in loan, like
mm.
state level
Yeah,
borrowing. Uh,
like emerging countries
right.
deals, like like
Yeah, like
that kind of money.
the monetary World Monetary Fund. Anyway, um, clearly like this was always on the table. This is always like probably the easiest and the best option for him.
Mhm,
So he knows this is coming. The Hertz deal, I don't know why, seemed to set the price way up. So it was kind of like a perfect storm for him.
mhm.
And his brother just made like a ton of money. So he's like, what? Kimball made 100 million selling, whatever.
Yeah,
So
I mean that now the naysayers, what they're saying is like it's strange that Kimball got himself 15% of his stake in Tesla, even more than Elon is talking about selling, just days before Elon made this announcement that obviously crashed the stock to stock is now down like I think 16% since
yeah,
his
but I mean,
announcement.
it's it's still wildly up. I
Yeah,
don't know.
well, it's not that much up since the before the Hertz deal. Like it's like they wiped out a lot of the value since the Hertz deal, basically. I think.
Yeah. So anyway, Elon makes it seem like he was being altruistic and like, okay, I'm going to pay some taxes because much is being made lately of unrealized gains. But
Mhm,
really, he's paying taxes because it's the smartest thing to
mhm.
do. I'm sure his financial advisors, his trust, are like, look, you just got to, the only thing to do here, you're getting all this stock, you got to sell some. Um, so, he's gonna sell a ton of, not a ton, 10%, but he's going to sell a huge monetary amount of Tesla shares into the market, and he's already begun doing that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Speaking of, he started on Monday, and as of now, he's at 5.7 billion. So,
right. So he's going to have enough money to pay all the taxes. Theoretically, he'll have enough money to pay a lot of his loans or most of his loans off.
mhm.
And then he's got some cash to spend, I guess.
Yeah, the last reporting date, he still had hundreds of millions of dollars worth of loans that
And
were
he's got
outstanding.
all these tranches of stock coming his way. He'll probably
Mm.
make that 10% back, like on
Mm.
all these stock options he's got.
Yeah, I mean, technically, if he's the way I'm seeing it, like Elon is exiting now because the price is super high, and if all goes well for him, really, Tesla stock will probably trade mostly sideways. That's what that's been happening with Tesla. Like they go up and go down, trade sideways and everything. It might go down or it might trade sideways from here. And by the time he gets all his stock options that are due to be exercised by the end of next year or even like the summer of next year, he's gonna have even more shares in Tesla than he did before this whole thing. And he's gonna have all the money to pay his 2022 tax bill from it, because or his 2021 tax bill, I should say, because of and then some for the 2022, because if he gets stock option in 2022 too, is that's when he's gonna have to pay the taxes. He's gonna be able to pay all that, with stocks that were sold at the highest price Tesla's ever been. So, I mean, the guy is he's not bad financially. Let's just say that. The only thing is that he's not representing the situation fairly, I think.
Yeah.
Uh, which normally I'm the me, I have my disagreement with Musk, but I'm the first one to defend him whenever calls some people calls like some shenanigans in the background that he doesn't mean what he says and everything like that. I think for the most part, Elon has always been quite honest and everything. On this one, is like there's a little bit of dishonesty going on. I think to be fair, at the end of the day, though, I think in 2021 and in 2022 Elon's gonna have the biggest tax bills in the U.S. Like he's gonna be the biggest taxpayer in the U.S. by far.
Oh, certainly individual.
Oh,
Maybe.
oh yeah, yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
I mean, theoretically, like
Mhm,
Apple might have to pay
mhm.
more.
But even then, sometimes they get
Yeah,
away.
yeah, Apple's probably they got everything
Even
going
those
through Ireland.
corporations, they're good too at avoiding taxes. It's not just the super rich. Uh, they find a way. Pretty.
Yeah,
But yeah, that was the big story this week. Elon starting to invest, and look, it's going to be a story for the next few weeks, I think, because at the pace he's selling right now. Sorry, we saw just Tesla released this morning the filings for the sales yesterday. So there's always a delay in reporting the insider trading, and he sold he reduced the uh, how big the batches of share he was selling. So he's selling by in batches because of course you cannot sell like billions of dollars worth at a time. It's difficult to find buyers for those, but yeah, I mean it's probably going to affect Tesla stock for a while. It's going to put some selling pressure on it, even though technically like an average trading volume at Tesla is basically the equivalent of the entire stake that Elon wants to sell. But
every day.
yeah, every day. But I mean, that's not the same of like having to unload that. On top of it, just the signal itself that the CEO is selling, even if he found himself a nice little reason to do it, that sounds like it's not because I think the stock is primed to be sold right now, which is actually what he might really be thinking. Um, yeah, it's a strange situation. It's fascinating to watch the both sides of it, and I'm a Tesla shareholder. I mean, I did sell shares to be, full disclosure. Was it early last week? Well, at the highest, at the peak when it was hitting 1,200, I'm like, all right, I think I'll take some profit here, but um, I'm
Fred,
still
your
a
tax
shareholder.
bill is going to be pretty big this year too. Then
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be a good one. I still have I didn't sell most of my share though. I'm long term on that front, but yeah, it's seeing both sides how they see it, how they want to see it. It's interesting. You see that people are not being objective a lot of the time.
yeah,
All right, let's move on to other Tesla news this week. Another week, another price increase, but this time only for the Model Y. That was interesting. Like so that happened overnight last night with the online configurator update. The Model Y got $1,000 price increase on both trims. That's the second one this month alone. There were two other significant price increase both on Model 3, Model Y last month too. So last 2 months it hasn't been good for new buyers here for Tesla. It's a lot more expensive. But yeah, normally it's both Model 3, Model Y at the same time. We know that those two models shares a lot of parts, and Tesla has been blaming the price increases on supply chain cost increases. So this is it's weird that this time is just affecting the Model Y. But yeah, the long range dual motor went from 58,000 to 59,000. The Model Y performance from 63 to 64,000. So the Model Y long range here, which is most likely the most popular one, at $59,000. That's up $9,000 this year alone. So it's
crazy.
yeah, it's a lot more expensive. And of course, this price increase here comes as it's in the U.S. It's U.S. pricing, and it comes as the new incentives should be locked in quite soon in the U.S. We should get all the details soon, but the details are going to be important because right now it looks like the amount is set. It's going to be $7,500, just like it was before Tesla ran out of the credit. But So the bill, I think Biden is aiming to sign it on Monday, I think, right? That's what they're talking about.
I think so.
So once it's signed on Monday, we're gonna get all the details of the last version of it too. And the big question for people right now for short term sales of electric vehicles and Tesla vehicle in particular, since I mean, it's a plus for everyone. Like everyone is getting more money, but for Tesla and GM, it's the biggest one. Though GM, their current sales of EVs are kind of in jeopardy anyway with the production problem of the Bolt EV.
Yeah.
So Tesla is really the focus right now because they already don't have any demand problem, but now it's when is it going to be active, this new EV tax rate? The language that I saw in the bill was it's going to be effective from December 31st, or after December 31st, 2021. So that means every car delivered in 2022 would get access to it. So while there's other talks that talk about it, technically meaning that it could be retroactive up to May 2021. So there's two ways of thinking here. So if it's retroactive, then doesn't matter anything. But if it's not, then you have a decision to make. For people that are set deliveries by the end of the year, do you take delivery?
No.
And not really. It's a lot of money saving a month.
$7,500 is $7,500. Like that's enough to yeah. You could just delay delivery. I mean,
That's where things get tricky here, Seth. Because if Tesla doesn't necessarily let you delay delivery.
well,
There's ways to do it, sure, but sometimes they're like, we're gonna deliver the car no matter what. So if people want to take delivery of the car, they take it, and you lose it, and like it's a new production. So you might have like to go back in line, which would, in this
right.
case, for a long range Model Y, would give you June 2022. So that's quite the long line. But at the same time, they tell you, okay, but you locked in an order however months ago when the price of the car might have been three, four, even $5,000 cheaper than it is now, and
Right.
so that's $7,500. If you change it to a new order and they make you pay the new price, you might not want to do that. So this
That's
is,
interesting. I hadn't thought about that
yeah.
way. I mean, they're going to make you reorder the vehicle if you don't take delivery. Can you
Well,
say
I
like,
don't know if they can really do that, but I think what they're doing, they can do is like just, if you don't want to take delivery, we're gonna deliver the car anyway to someone else, and then you go back in line, like we're gonna reproduce the car, and then they tell you. I don't know if like it might be just a sell tactic too, but they tell you like right now the new deliveries are for June 2022. So like, hey, I'm not gonna wait a year to get my car. So it's not necessarily, it's pressure on both ways. It's pressure on the timeline, and it's pressure on the price with the new pricing. So it's a strange situation for sure.
well, it'll be over in a month and a half. So,
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot more clarity, but maybe even before that, if we can have some more clarity on the bill too, that would make a big difference. But yeah, I mean, some people right now are considering like, oh, let me just cancel my order and take delivery next year. But when you do that, keep in mind price might have changed since you placed the order. It changed a lot. There was a new software update this week that brought a
real quick
feature.
to
Yeah,
go
yeah, go
back to
ahead.
the previous thing, we got an email from a guy who said he had originally wanted to buy a like Model 3 and it was supposed to be delivered like in May. And he was like, so many people are holding off on their orders that he was getting his like in December. But you know, he knew the deal. He knows the drill. He's like, oh, I don't want it in December. I want it in January. So I wonder if Tesla's just like cycling through a lot of these reservations to because nobody wants to pick up their order over the next 2 months.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that there's like, honestly, I think Tesla might have enough people that care more about getting the car sooner than the 7,500, which sounds crazy to some, but you'd be surprised how many people, just especially if they've been waiting for months and months and months, they're like, all right, let's do it or whatever. So um and then even if they don't, even if they don't think at the option of just like trying to delay the order and keeping the existing one, keeping the pricing. Even if Tesla just mentioned you like, oh yeah, but we increased the price and everything. Now you're getting the car sooner. You're not having to pay that price. So that can be just enough. I'll take delivery. I'll take delivery, and things like that. So something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
So Tesla started pushing 2021.40.5, and there was a lot of this update. This includes like new cars and that didn't get the previous update that we talked about, with like the cold weather improvement, Tidal music app, and all that stuff that we talked about last week. So it's like a second wave on that, but on top of it, they added a new feature, which is a waypoints for the navigation system. So it's something that a lot of owners have been requesting forever, because Tesla doesn't allow you to use Apple Maps or Google Maps. It uses their native in-house design navigation system that use Google Maps and other map system, but the navigation on it is Tesla's, and the waypoints haven't been an option. It's you enter a navigation a destination, and that's a destination, and that's it. But now you can click the plus button icon next to the navigation search once you have a destination pin, and then with that you can add other points towards your destination. So I don't know how often people would use that, but I mean, Tesla already does it automatically with Supercharger stops. Like if you enter a destination that's too far for your charge, your current state of charge, they will add Supercharger waypoints, if you will.
Right.
But now you can do some that are not waypoint or are not Supercharger related, or doesn't require you to get another charge. I don't know how often I would use that, but I know it was a highly requested feature. So I'm sure some people will find some use to it. All right, this was an interesting one here. The Minister of Economy and Innovation here in Quebec disclosed this week through his PR manager that he met with Tesla last month in Palo Alto. He met with some Tesla executive to discuss the potential of Tesla investing in the battery supply chain in Quebec. So, for those unaware, in Quebec, there's currently Quebec is a metal rich. There's a lot of mine here. The mining industry is big. It's a huge province and a lot of resources, especially up north, and a lot of battery metal related resources, lithium, nickel, some copper too. There's graphite, a lot of graphite, which is useful in lithium. Some cobalt, though I don't think there's any in exploitation right now, or there used to be some, but I don't think right now there's any. But there's a ton of it, and the government is tapping into the demand for it to create new jobs and to bolster the industry, and they're investing between 2 and 3 billion Canadian dollars, which is 1.6 to 2.4 billion, and to support a creation of more of a full cycle of the industry, because as you know, it's not just about mining the actual metals. The metals need to be refined, from like lithium to lithium hydroxide to be used in batteries, the nickel and the manganese and the cobalt, they need to be made into a cathode material. So like there's a lot of things you can do even before you even have a battery cell. But of course, Quebec wants to have the whole thing, wants to have everything down to the battery cell, and even the cars or any type of vehicles if they can. So they're investing $2 to $3 billion in order to make that happen, and they have some success to a degree. There's Leon Electric that is going to make their own batteries here. There's Taiga. I think I've only talked about battery pack assembly. I don't think they talk about the cells themselves. And you have at the mining and refining level, you have Nouveau Monde graphite. You have Nemaska lithium. Those are very advanced project right now that are going to supply material for battery cells. But what you really need when you're trying to create an industry like that, you need kind of an anchor project that produce the whole thing, that produce the whole battery cell. And for that, Quebec would need a company like Tesla to do a gigafactory type project, or a company like Panasonic, LG, SK Innovation, CATL if they want to come to Canada. like any of those companies. That's what really, if you do have an anchor project like that, then all those other supply chain like lithium hydroxide and all that stuff will be easier to bring to the market. So it sounds like Quebec is courting Tesla on that front, but we don't have any details on to if it's going to amount to anything. We do know that Tesla is going to get some lithium from Quebec through their deal with PMO Lithium. It's complicated, but technically it's a company that's based in North Carolina. They have a lithium project in North Carolina, but that lithium project is falling behind schedule. So they invested in Sayona Mining, which is actually an Australian company, but they do have a project in Quebec, Savitibi region in OT, which is actually where my dad is from. A little tiny little village of 200 people in the middle of nowhere. I shouldn't say middle of nowhere. It's a beautiful region. I've been there many times. It's super fun, but it's a low population region. And they're gonna get some lithium from that. That's gonna end up in Tesla batteries. But so far, it sounds like the lithium is gonna travel all the way to. I don't know where actually PMO Lithium's refining is gonna be. Probably in North Carolina, I would think, and then to Tesla, most likely Texas, where right now Tesla is deploying their biggest battery cell production capacity. But yeah, it would be it would be awesome if they would invest in a. They're gonna have to build other gigafactories for batteries in North America. Now I don't know if Quebec is at the top of their list right now, but it looks like it's like they're throwing their hat in the ring at least. Is that the term?
Yep.
Yeah.
Throwing their hat in.
All right. Lastly, for Tesla this week, the Supercharger network achieved a giant milestone: 30,000 charger worldwide. We're talking about supercharger stalls here. So the station, it's 3,100. So Tesla is now averaging almost 10 stalls per station, which is good. Of course, there's some of them that are way more than 10 stalls. No, there's Tesla is building 100 stalls station right now, which is massive. But yeah, it's a big new milestone for Tesla. It's the biggest global, well, technically probably the only global fast charging network. That Tesla is the only one that did it everywhere. Normally, it's more localized, but yeah, and it looks like it's going fast because you have to go back only in May, uh, late May, to get them at 25,000, their last milestone. So it's 5,000 new supercharger in basically 6 months, 7 months. So good on Tesla for that, and of course they're gonna need to grow fast too, since now they are onboarding non-Tesla EV on the network. It's going to increase traffic and it's going to increase demand for those supercharger stations. So they're going to have a lot more. And coincidentally, they might get some money because if on top of the Build Back Better bill, supposedly being signed on Monday, the infrastructure bill is also expected to be signed. And that's going to unlock $7.5 billion for EV infrastructures in the US. But to get access to that funding, you need to be open to all. No, actually, the phrasing is not all EVs. You need to be open to more than one automaker. So Tesla could have just done a deal with a single automaker, and I think they would have it okay under the phrasing of the bill. But of course, now they decided to just open it to everyone. Not quite there in the US yet, but I'm sure that once the bill goes through, they're gonna start moving a little bit faster because
Yep.
a lot of people are gonna want to access that 7.5 billion. I know that if you're investing in EV charging infrastructure in the US right now, was a good week for the little stocks. EVgo went up like 30%. ChargePoint did good too. Wallbox is doing great, so it's a good time to invest in.
Speaking of a good time to talk about EV infrastructure, let me do a quick read here. Electrify America, which also had some big news this week. They had their 200th California charger, which is a ton in California, and a huge bank in I think San Jose. We covered. So this episode of the Electrek Podcast is brought to you by Electrify America. Electrify America now operates the largest coast-to-coast ultra-fast charging network with more than 650 charging stations, and it's growing. It currently has plans underway for around 800 total charging stations with more than 3,500 chargers to be completed by December of this year. That's next month. And it plans to have more than 1,800 ultra-fast charging stations and 10,000 individual chargers installed by the end of 2025. That includes 50 kilowatt to 350 kilowatt chargers near highways, 50 kilowatt to 150 kilowatt chargers in metropolitan areas. The newly launched Electrify America mobile apps now offer contactless payment along with CarPlay and Android Auto integration, and you can save up to 25% on charging with the new Pass Plus subscription plans. If you're an EV driver and want to learn more about Electrify America and its growing network of charging stations, find out what they're up to at electrifyamerica.com. That's electrifyamerica.com, or hit up the link in the show notes. Thanks again to Electrify America for sponsoring this week's show.
Yes, thanks, EA. If you guys have any question for us, please put them in the comment section right now. We're gonna get to them in just a few minutes. Please put them in all cap or put question in all caps so we can get to them and not differentiate them between what you guys are talking between each other. Also, if you do like the show, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the podcast. That's really appreciated. All right, we're gonna talk about the Rivian because Rivian had a big week this week. They went public. The good old ways. Forget about the SPAC mania that hit the EV industry over the last 2 years. They went with the IPO, and they had, let me just say, very successful IPO. The and I think the story, people are not, they're not giving the story a credit that it's due here. They're focusing on the value of the company. They're saying it's completely overvalued. They open at 77 billion valuation, but that's what they were. The IPO, the way it works, like the banks are buying, the banks, then institutional investors or previous investors are buying the shares. In this case, Rivian was cool though. They did also offer some shares to reservation holders in the US only though. So those people are the only one that can buy the IPO at the set price, which was $78 a share, I think.
Yep.
78.
And they could buy up to, I think, 175 shares.
175 share. Okay, so it's not a huge amount, but it's nice. Then those shares are the owners that own those shares offer them publicly on the market at whatever price they want. To start with the controlling banks. I don't know which banks were behind that deal. I don't remember, but it's always the usual suspects: the Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and all those guys. And they started trading it at like $106 a share, and now it went up over the last few days. I think it closed at 120, 130, something like that.
Yeah, I don't think it was ever under $100.
It did deep under the listed price, $130 a share. It closed today. It did dip a little bit,
Oh yeah,
but not
under
that much.
100. So it was down to 96. It looks like.
Yeah.
The day of started.
So at that level, it gives the company a valuation of $110 billion, which is more than Ford, which is more than GM, which I think it makes them the fourth or fifth highest value automakers in the world, behind Tesla, Toyota, Volkswagen, and I think that might be it. Is BMW worth that much? I don't even think BMW is worth
No, I
that
don't
much.
think
Daimler,
so.
No, Daimler maybe. Anyway, it's wild because it's a company that just started deliveries of their trucks and
We've got
only
like 160 delivered trucks.
Yeah, so
almost $1 billion per truck.
Getting close to it. Not quite getting close to it though. And it's what everyone is focusing on. But what I would like to note, and because you got Elon also like jumping in and like, yeah, it's a lot of value for a company that needs to prove that they can ramp up and everything, and they can make money off those trucks, because on the 160 truck they're losing a ton of money on each truck right now. There's no doubt, until they reach volume production, which is all fair point. And he's like, Tesla is the only one that didn't go bankrupt doing that, and another fair point. But when Tesla IPO'd, how much money did Tesla make when they IPO? Let me Tesla IPO funding. How much was that? They made 226 million. 226 million when they listed public in 2010. With that IPO, Rivian got $12 billion in funding. That's the real story here. So yes, it's valued extremely high. You don't expect a kind of return on your investment if you're investing right now in Rivian like you did with Tesla at the IPO. It's not there. so if you're just thinking about your own portfolio and everything, like, yeah, it's not as attractive an investment. But if you're thinking about electrification and accelerating the advent of electric vehicles, that's $12 billion that's going towards that. That's
It's
the real
good.
big story here. It's massive. And yeah, I mean, with $12 billion, like, Rivian can afford a lot of mistakes. Obviously, I hope that they don't make too many, because I want them to reach volume production and sustainability as soon as possible, financial sustainability. Um, but they can afford to have a production hell, a big one, much bigger one than Tesla even. So this is the good news. This almost guarantees really that Rivian's gonna come out okay of this whole thing. They won't need to raise any money. It's not like they needed that much anyway. They already raised, like, I think $12 billion before the IPO over the last few years. But now this $12 billion in one shot. They can lose a lot of money every quarters until they reach volume production and then become sustainable off of that. So it's awesome news. I was very happy about that this week. Um,
And Ford and Amazon made a ton of money, and we know Amazon
mm,
needs a lot of money because they're broke. So
yeah,
good for them.
I was very happy about that. It's like seeing some of those YouTube videos where rich YouTubers give money to the poor. Like, that's reminding me of that.
Hmm.
Yeah, and the what they're gonna use this money for really, it's to their goal, and they say, is to reach a million annual production capacity by 2030. So 9 years to achieve that. Which, I mean, Tesla is aiming for 20 million in 2030. So it's the different ramp up, of course. But Tesla is at a million right now. So it's 20x. It's much more than 20x for Rivian, but it's also like bigger vehicles they're aiming for. I think they're gonna go down market a little bit with future vehicles, but um, the every pickup truck that you displace with the electric version is gonna make a big impact. So that's good too. All right, Subaru finally fully unveiled the Solterra this week, and it's about as exciting as it gets. It's basically the BZ4X from Toyota, but different form factor with the Subaru logo on it.
But not
Maybe
that different form. Like if you look at it from the side, it looks
yeah,
remarkably similar.
yeah, they look very similar. Yeah. So the Subaru logo is the biggest difference. Yeah, it's not bad looking though. Like, but I did like the BZ4 form factor too. So I guess I have a type.
The thing is with Subaru that I feel like they're in kind of a little bit of world of pain incoming because they kind of owned the crossover, all-wheel drive. They made really good
Mm,
drivetrains for gas all-wheel drive vehicles, but it's not hard to make an all-wheel drive electric vehicle. Like everybody's doing it.
mm,
Volkswagen, Tesla, obviously. Um, Basically everything except the Bolt EV. I mean, even like Nissan Aria, like obviously the Volkswagen, Audi's got all-wheel drive, Jaguar's got all-wheel drive. Like they're just lots of them. Even like Kia and with the EV6 and the Hyundai uh, Ionic will have all-wheel drive options.
mhm.
So Subaru's not the only game in town anymore. Like, and they're really late to electrification. So I don't know if I
And they
would.
rely on Toyota.
And like even worse, they rely on
Mm.
Toyota, which is already really far behind. So I don't know. Not looking good.
Yeah, they have some cool things like the BZ. They have the solar roof and whatnot. But I mean, you just mentioned the all wheel drive, and they're still claiming to have like an advantage in all wheel drive, even without any mechanical linkage. It doesn't make much sense. Like it's going to be very similar to other companies, but with the same powertrain as the BZ, you go from 150 front wheel drive motor to 280 kilowatt uh, dual motors. So it's not very powerful all-wheel drive to start with on top of it. So I don't think it's going to be that much of a fun car to drive, just based on power at least. I mean, you can have great handling and whatnot, but power is not great. 71.4 kilowatt hour battery pack. And again, just like the BZ a few weeks ago, these are all Japan spec for the Japanese version, and the unveiling of the US version is apparently coming next week at the LA Auto Show.
We'll be there, or I'll
Yeah,
be
yeah,
there.
there might be some differences. Like we know that some Japanese and even some European automakers have been known to. Well, normally they have a smaller version that they sell in other markets, and they keep the bigger version. They only sell the bigger version in the US. In this case, like they only announced one version of the battery pack, so I don't know if it's gonna be different or whatever. But so far, it's a 71.4 kilowatt battery pack. They claim 285 miles of range, 460 kilometers, based on the Japan's version of the WLTC. Should amount to around 250 PA. Might be a little generous on that front. That's with the 18-inch. You can have 20-inch wheels too with the all-wheel drive version. That's it for the Solterra. Maybe we're gonna have a little bit more to. Well, we're gonna have more to say about them next week. We should at least see it in person and give you at least a first look with better pictures because they didn't release much pictures of it. All right, a quick note on the conference, the COP26, the UN climate change conference that just I think it's ending today, right? It's ending today, but the final report I think is not coming until Sunday. But this week there was the transportation week, and there was some announcement regarding electric vehicles, and the big one was this. I guess it amounts to a pledge. They call it a declaration that to go all electric, all new sales of zero emission cars and vans globally by 2040. Completely uninspired, boring as hell. Uh, not excited by it at all. And it was signed by a bunch of nations that so that they wanted to signal at least that this is something that's coming. But even a lot of those nations have more aggressive goals themselves. So it's like they agreed all together to a weaker goal. But some big markets in there. Canada sign up, Chile, Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Ireland, Israel, Mexico, Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway. Which again, Norway is aiming for 2025, and they're probably going to achieve it next year. So it's for them. It's like, yeah, sure, we'll sign their pledge. Poland,
I don't see the
Sweden.
U.S. in there.
No, the U.S. is not in there. They didn't sign
Huh.
as a country, but a bunch of states signed, including California, New York, Washington. They all sign on. So, I mean, those are states that are already have more aggressive timelines than the federal timelines. A bunch of automakers also signed on: Ford, GM, Mercedes Benz, Jaguar, Land Rover, and Volvo. But again, most of those already have goals to achieve that sooner. So it's not really exciting stuff. Was kind of, but the whole conference, like, at this point, I think it's not politics and stuff. That politics can help, like the new incentive in the US are going to help. We're going to accelerate it short term, but mid to long term, it's going to be the technology that's going to do a difference. You cannot change human behaviors that much, creature of habit and whatnot. I think that technology and making the solution that are more sustainable just as convenient as the one that are not sustainable, and even cheaper if possible, that's going to make the difference. And I think we're achieving that in electric vehicles. At least that's what we're following at Electrek. All right, so we jump into the comment section.
Yep. All right. First one, unsurprisingly, Model Y up $1,000 again. Y tier emoticon. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's at $60,000 now for the most
Yeah,
part.
yeah.
That's no longer like a kind of like a Model 3. Model 3 was originally 35,000. Obviously you had to
Mm,
call in and know the code, but
mm.
I
Secret
think,
password.
yeah, I feel like it's gone up a lot more than 10,000 overall. It feels like it's gone up a lot more. Anyway, that sucks, but inflation.
Yeah, I mean inflation, supply chain cost increase. If you listen to Tesla, but also I think they can, like they just can't. They have the
The
demand for it.
demand's there, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that one's a little confusing.
Mm.
The terror of investing in future generations. Not sure what that means.
Yeah, me neither.
All right. Kimball committed insider trading, says Jonathan Root. Elon's had set up with the banks the stock sale weeks in advance.
I mean, I don't know about Kimball, whether Elon told him or not that he's going to say that. My hunch is that probably not. Though it is a big sell for Kimball. 15% was a big sell, so that's a little bit suspicious. But I'll give them the benefit of the doubt,
I'm
unless
sure they've
these.
got lawyers and financial
Yeah,
advisors saying, don't do this, do this.
yeah.
So
But
hopefully,
the weeks in advance for the sales, I don't think you have to do that. I mean, Elon can probably call the CEO of whatever bank is holding his shares and sell them. It's like,
liquidate,
yeah.
sell more and more.
And I mean, the sales are coming in slow too, and like it's probably going to be going for weeks. But that doesn't mean that he didn't have ulterior motive other than whatever he said in the
Right.
tweet that we discussed that earlier on the show.
All right. And he continues, I don't think you'd say Elon was being honest when he said funding secured. So yeah, that's a good point.
Here's the thing about that one.
He was high.
Apparently so. I don't know who said that. It was like this rapper girl that was. But
No, but I thought like the court testimony was like he was high and trying to make a joke
no,
for his
no. I think.
girlfriend or something.
Well, I think it was making a weed joke, but I don't think it was high. I don't think in the testimony he said he was high when he said that. But yeah, that, he definitely exaggerated funding secure. But maybe he came out of that Saudi meeting and confident that it would happen, like they were giving him money. I don't know. It sounds more like he was really frustrated at that point with the cyclical nature of being a public company and whatnot. That he was like, all right, like we'll take this public, we'll make it happen. I can secure the funding, and then of course it never happened.
Yep. All right. Roll of 20 says, do you think Rivian stock will go crazy like Tesla? I know you're not financial advisors. I think it's
Well,
already going a little crazy. If you consider it's like one of the, considering where Rivian is in their life cycle,
mm.
they're already one
They're
of the,
only worth 1/10 of Tesla. So and again, we just talked about if you're a long-term investor, I think a long-term investor, I think probably Rivian is a good investment. Again, I'm no financial advisor, as you pointed out, but uh, when we're talking about well, like you look at you brought up the comparison to Tesla, it's worth 1/10 of Tesla right now, and Tesla is aiming for 20 million annual capacity in 2030, when Rivian is aiming for 1 million. So I think there's a lot of value built in, but at the same time it's worth $100 billion, and they have like over $12 billion in the bank. So it's not necessarily a bad investment either. I thoroughly, honestly, uh, don't know if it's going to be like a very good investment long term in terms of return. But if you ask me, will it go as crazy as Tesla stock? I think not.
all right. And then here we go. How is Lucid going to do? Is it too expensive? I think that's the question. Um, I think Lucid is going to do pretty well on their
Mm,
based on their initial vehicles. They also had a pretty good stock raise recently, and
yeah.
you know I think their cars are award winning, to say the least. So
Yeah, I mean, I think Lucid's approach is very good because, like, yes, the car they're delivering right now are really expensive, but they have this like 500 plus miles of range, super efficient, all that stuff. They're good selling points that will make buyers go for it. Um, and then as they continue with production, they ramp up and they should go down to the least expensive version of the Air. I think the least expansion of the Air is now going to be cheaper than the Model S. The Model S is super expensive right now too. Keep that in mind.
yep.
And they have some decent range on those too. So no, I think Lucid is well set up right now. Uh, it's it's going to be a big player. I think just like Rivian. Maybe financially they're not as well set as Rivian, but other than that, I think they're going to do good.
All right. Are either of you going to buy an Aptera? So that's the kind of very
Mm.
super aerodynamic solar car that it almost looks like one of those cars they like race across the Australian desert only on solar power. But the Aptera has a battery and it's a two-seater, and you kind of lay down a little bit so that you're not lay down, but you're just kind of reclined a little bit. So I would buy one, but I don't know if they're going to really make them as soon and as obviously as um, they're saying 2022, which is next year. But Scooter was just at the facility where they, the headquarters, and it didn't seem like they were, that they had an assembly line going or anything of that nature, which you kind of need to have a year from going, to selling actual vehicles. So uh, if Aptera gets their act together and actually makes vehicles, I would love to get one of those. I think riding on sunshine would be a fantastic idea, and if they could get it even just a little bit more efficient, I think they said it's like as efficient as driving or a one uh, cubic square block. Like it's the same amount of energy to push that through the air as one of these huge vehicles. It's that efficient. So
Mm.
um, I love the idea of the efficiency and the solar and almost being able to ride just never plug in. But we've seen a bunch of solar startups and none of them seem to be like very close to like mass production.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, I mean, we've been talking a lot about the stock market today, but Sono Motors, another one that announced that they're going public too, and we see them having similar problems as Aptera. Like they have some cool things going on, and it like Seth said, it's an appealing idea to have to go to drive on solar and have super efficient car. But yeah, they don't seem to be close to production either. But I agree with you. I mean, if Aptera can deliver like 1,000 mile vehicle, like it's awesome. And even if it's on the expensive side for the utility of it, there's people who's gonna buy that for sure. I
yeah,
don't
and
know if I'm
also
gonna be one of them though, but
safety is a bit of a concern as well. I
oh
mean,
yeah, it's not a family car. You don't want to
no,
put your kids in there.
no, not really. It's like putting your kid on the back of a motorcycle,
Yeah.
which you can do. All right. Will we do a review? Ben Pena asks on the Lucid. We need an honest evaluation.
We did the
Scooter,
first drive.
yeah,
Scooter did the first drive, which he was impressed by, but we haven't done a full review yet. We weren't on the lucky ones invited to do the review. I think only Motor Trend and a few others did a review so far that they posted.
yeah,
They going the Tesla route on that front. They are being very careful who they choose to give their cars
selective.
to. Yeah, selective is the word. You're right.
Yeah. All right. Stefan Schnablegger. I think Tesla will actually deliver a semi to PepsiCo by the end of the year. Any leaks, whispers on this?
Oh,
Hey, we
I forgot to talk about it. I have Tesla Semi in the headline here. I forgot to talk about it. Yeah, so Stefan here is referring to the CEO of PepsiCo saying this week that they expect to take delivery of their first 15 Tesla Semi trucks by the end of the year, which would counter what Tesla said earlier this week that deliveries to customer would be delayed to 2022. So the way we interpreted the news, we were like, all right, is he misinformed or does he know something we don't? Um, I think he knows something we don't. Uh,
hmm.
and we might have some more news on that next week. But I'm hearing things about PepsiCo actually being uh, closely involved with Tesla in the semi program, and we might get some news next week about some new product. I don't know if Tesla's going to call them production Tesla semi, but some new units. We talked about earlier this year, if you remember, this summer Tesla was setting up the production line in Nevada. So I don't know. Maybe you're gonna see PepsiCo coming to Nevada next week. I don't know. Maybe not.
All right. This is one that we've been working on for a while. Any word on a Micah podcast, weekly YouTube? It won't be weekly. It'll probably be bi-weekly or even monthly. yes, we have all the artwork. We're getting it all set up. It'll happen hopefully by the end of the year. So that's the bike podcast. We'll have more information on that
Yeah,
soon.
and I mean, if the response is good, people, like that's gonna motivate Micah to do it more. But I believe by himself, Micah he's gonna start doing it, and he was gonna be all right. I actually have a lot more to talk about than I thought, and he's gonna do it more often. That's my hope.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you guys can give him a good response to that podcast, that would be awesome.
All right. And so far, the last one is Giga Berlin going to be able to output any Tesla before the end of the year?
Well, Tesla has been indicating that he could.
Getting
There's
close.
but there's the final approval that they need to officially start production. Last time that we reported on it, they had to redo the whole process of public comments on the environmental impact report. So this, like, there's no word to say exactly. I think it's going through in the entirety of November, or at least to like the last few weeks of November, and then I think they have to take those new comments into account. So like, there's not saying exactly when this is going to be fixed. I think.
All right. That's it.
No, oh, there's the Eli Deschamps
Oh,
to
yeah.
ask Volcon. Yeah, that
Yeah.
would be
So
it.
we were going to do the Volcon.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. It's on the agenda. I don't know when, but it's definitely happening.
cool. Yeah, the grunt.
Yeah. Those
The grunt.
huge tire.
Yeah, they look cool. They look cool. Just for off roading though. It's not. I wish they would offer like kind of on road kit that you can add on it and like make it a on road scooter at the same time. Would be cool, or motorcycle, whatever you call it. All right, that's it for the show this week. Thanks everyone for listening. If you did like the show, please give us a thumbs up and a comment in the comment section. I would appreciate that a lot. We read them all. Then, if you're listening on your podcast app, please leave us a 5-star review. That helps the show a lot, and we appreciate when you do. And that's it for this week, guys. Have a safe weekend, and we're going to see you next week. Bye bye.